to another Geno 3 podcast with your host, Andy. In this episode, I am again joined by Kirsty. How are you, Kirsty?
All good. How are you?
Excellent, excellent, thanks. We've got you along again today to kind of draw on your expertise around nutrition. And today we're going to be talking all things cinnamon. So, just before we kind of get into that, just our usual medical disclaimer to say that the content provided in this pod and in all of our pods is for information purposes only and is not a substitute for medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. So, a little disclaimer there out of the way. And Kirsty, I'm going to hand over to you just now, just to kind of kick things off regarding cinnamon. So, I suppose the big question is why cinnamon? Our listeners may be keen to understand, well, why cinnamon specifically, what's important about it. So, if you want to kick us off.
Yeah, cinnamon, it's one of those like in the journey that I've had since doing the DNA test, it was a bit random. I was like,
Hmm.
this is a bit like why is this in there? But our our DNA tests whether you have an increased need for cinnamon, a high need for cinnamon, or an average need for cinnamon, and it's all
Okay.
based around in relation to your genotypes associated with blood sugar control and satiety. That's
Mm.
the genes that it looks at. And if you're high need, then it's maybe that your blood sugar control genes aren't as strong as if those that are just average need. But I will say though, I think it's important based on the research that I've done that
Hmm.
everybody has cinnamon in their diet regularly because it is amazing what it can do for your body,
Hmm.
regardless of if you're high need, medium, or average need. It's like it blew my mind a wee bit when I started looking into it. So
Hmm. Because it's not
really,
one of the
that's
ones that sort of jumps out immediately. You think kind of cinnamon, like you've got all that nonsense online about people doing cinnamon challenges and taking spoons of cinnamon and then coughing it all up and all this kind of nonsense. But actually, used in the right way, it's got some purported health benefits, which obviously we're going to get into just shortly. But maybe it might be useful at this point to kind of find out a bit more about the origins of cinnamon.
yeah. So well, first I'll go over maybe some of the qualities first that make it
Hmm.
so good for anybody that decides to, or hopefully after discussing in this pod everything that we're going to discuss, people will say, I want to actually have that in my diet on a daily basis. The qualities, and these are all science backed, this isn't just random stuff. This is
Hmm.
all big studies, human studies, that have looked at the benefits of cinnamon. They are rich in antioxidants and polyphenols. And if you listen to the last pod, you'll have heard me talk a lot about polyphenols,
Power of
which
polyphenols.
exactly the brain
Hmm.
function, they help with brain function, they help with lower inflammation, immune support, all of that stuff. So they're rich in antioxidants and polyphenols. They
Hmm.
may have anti-inflammatory properties, so that may then help lower your disease risk. They
Hmm.
may reduce the risk of heart disease. They may improve cognitive function in Alzheimer's disease. They may help lower blood sugar levels, and they're historically it was used to preserve food and prevent food spoilage before the modern sort of versions of that came. So
Hmm.
it's a sort of superfood, lots of health benefits. And as I said, lots of human studies recently have shown support for all of those things.
Okay. And we'll kind of get into maybe some examples of that as well, just as we kind of sort of progress on, I think would be bringing us
Well,
back
one
to the
actually,
element of sort of, yeah, go for it.
one study, just because it's a cool a really cool one that I picked out because I looked at a few of the studies. One study reviewed quite a number of studies, so that it was a big study that looked at a load of cinnamon studies and its effect on the brain. And they
Hmm.
found strong evidence that cinnamon and its key compounds can boost memory and learning.
Mm,
And there was
interesting. Okay.
one clinical trial that they did where they showed there was a group of teenagers, one lot chewed cinnamon gum during a test, and the other lot didn't chew
Hmm.
cinnamon gum. And those that were in the test, same test, everything else the same. It was the
Hmm.
cinnamon was the factor that was different. They had a better test result just from, well,
Interesting.
hopefully
Okay.
from chewing the cinnamon. And also, it's been shown that even just smelling it can have an
Hmm.
impact on, in a positive way, on brain activity and mental sharpness. So any people out there doing exams, take a bit of cinnamon gum or
Hmm.
sniff it. Take
Try
a
it.
wee pot of cinnamon and just sniff it in your exam, and it might give you a good result. But I
Hmm.
thought that was quite a fun one. I will add more research is needed on that particular sort of
Yeah.
thing, but it's a fun study that highlights the cool stuff that it can do.
Yeah, that's that potential, isn't it? Okay.
Yeah, you can just tell the
Um,
kids at school, here's some
I'll do that.
cinnamon
Start
gum.
start having some cinnamon gum. Well, I don't think we're allowed chewing gum in school now, so
Any
maybe
teacher,
not
well,
cinnamon
maybe
gum, but yeah,
any
maybe an
teachers
exam
out
they'd be all right.
there,
But
yeah, you give your kids a cinnamon, bit of cinnamon gum before their
mm,
exam, and that might enhance them
yeah,
and
got
get
to
you
put the
better
work in as well,
results.
though. Got to put all
I
the work in
know,
before
that's
that.
it.
So the origins of cinnamon. Do you want to hit us up with some information about that?
Yeah, well, it's traced back to Sri Lanka. Um,
Mm-hmm.
It's been used for thousands of years. Ancient Egyptians used it. Historically, it was seen as so precious that
Mm-hmm.
it was considered a gift fit for kings.
Oh,
So even historically, it's been seen as quite precious. It comes from the inner bark of tropical trees, with Sri Lanka being the main supplier of true cinnamon. There are other
okay.
countries in and around that do it as well, but Sri Lanka is the main one of true cinnamon.
So with that in mind, I suppose what types of cinnamon exist then? And you're obviously talking about true cinnamon from Sri Lanka. But what types of cinnamon exist out there?
Yeah,
Is
so
there more than one or?
yeah, there's more than one, there's two. And I didn't know this. I just before thought, oh, cinnamon, cinnamon. It's not. For
Hmm.
the health benefits, there's a particular type that you should be looking for, and it's
Hmm.
called Ceylon.
Ceylon.
Um,
Okay.
Ceylon, like salon.
Hmm.
Ceylon. It's
Said a little bit
actually
differently.
spelled Ceylon. That's how
Okay.
it's spelled. So look out for that if you're wanting to buy it. So it's
Hmm.
Ceylon is the one that's the true cinnamon. It's got a milder flavor than the other one, which I'll talk about in a minute. It's healthier, it's
Hmm.
safer for regular consumption, and it's the one that gives the most health benefit. It's
Hmm.
slightly more expensive than the other type, which is
Okay.
called Cassia,
Hmm.
right? So there's cassia, and that's a stronger flavor, but that contains a high amount of a substance. It's called coumarin, the substance that
Hmm.
should be consumed in moderation. It can impact liver and things if you have too
So is that
much
the
of it.
stuff that you can, like, if you went to a supermarket or shop, that would be the more likely is the second
Yes.
type there. You have
If
to kind
if
of
you
dig a wee
go,
bit deeper to find
yeah,
the true
if you go
version.
into the supermarket, it will likely be cassia, which is the type
Hmm.
you don't want for health benefit. In terms of adding flavor, because it's such small quantities, if you were making an apple crumble and you just wanted the cinnamon flavor,
A wee
that's
sprinkle dinkle in
fine.
it, yeah.
A wee
Mm.
sprinkle, no problem. That's the one that you could buy. But if you're looking at specifically the health benefits, it's the salon that you want to buy.
Okay.
Um, it's this cassia is cheaper,
Hmm.
which is why it's in the supermarket. But it's as I said, it's salon that you're looking for.
Hmm. So where could you get Ceylon? Obviously, there'll be various places online, I would imagine,
It,
sort of Whole Foods sort of
I
websites
had
and
a
things like
look.
that, maybe, or.
You can buy it online if you type it
Hmm.
in to a search engine, and sort of whole food shops. There's a
Hmm.
high street one that's very common. I'm not going to say which one it is in the UK, but people will know
Hmm.
which one I mean. The more upper market supermarkets might have it. The cheaper
Okay.
supermarkets don't. I've looked; they don't generally stock it. So the
Hmm.
big supermarkets, but the more upmarket ones might. Your
Hmm.
best bet's probably health food shop or online, and the price isn't. It's not unreasonable. It's
Yeah, it's
not
not
unreasonable.
wildly like
No,
expensive.
no. So it's accessible.
Hmm.
If people wanted to buy it.
Okay. So I suppose that kind of then leads us on to talking about, well, how much cinnamon should we have per day to gain any sort of health benefit then?
Well, when I looked into it, because I initially I thought that's impossible. Is it just a sprinkle? Is it a pinch? What is it? But actually, when you look at
Hmm.
the studies, the most effective health benefits across a whole meta analysis of loads of different types of studies, 3 to 6 grams seems a day seems to be the optimum for health
Okay.
benefits. That for me, when I've tried to include it, that's around about for around 3 grams, you're looking at two fairly heaped or 2 teaspoons per day,
Okay.
which seems a lot.
Hmm.
Like when you think about it, you think, how am I going to include that? Because if I was making an apple crumble, I'd maybe only put 1 teaspoon in the whole crumble.
Yeah, because you
Um,
wouldn't want to dominate the flavor.
exactly. It is a very strong flavour, but Ceylon is milder, remember. It's not as strong
Hmm.
as Cassia, which is what people will be used to.
Yeah.
And I've got some tips, which
Okay.
we've tried,
We
which
have. We have.
we've had a bit of a we did a bit of an experiment, didn't we, Andy, where we looked at the different ways that we could
Some
increase
good,
our
some bad.
cinnamon, some
Yeah.
really good and like, oh, that's surprising, some really bad.
Hmm.
So I'll just go through a few that we tried that worked really well.
Yeah.
And then the one that both of us do every single day, and it doesn't actually, I don't feel it causes me any discomfort or issue at all. I quite enjoy it now.
Hmm. Hmm.
So protein shake, you have protein shake after your workouts. You
Yeah.
tried it in that,
Hmm.
like a
And it was,
teaspoon.
yeah, and it was absolutely fine. Didn't really kind of compromise the flavor too much, and um, it was fine. Yeah, I didn't mind it at all.
So protein shake, if you're having a workout, chuck it in. As I said, the flavour is milder, so it's not as strong as you might think. Overnight oats,
Hmm.
putting them in that, smoothies. Baking is an easy one.
Yeah.
So if you're making banana muffins or anything, or apple crumble or things like that, that's an easy one to put it
Hmm.
in.
Any of that sort of
I,
classic combination of cinnamon. Yeah.
yeah, I tried in fruit salad, like mixing it in with honey and then drizzling it over the top. That was nice.
Hmm.
Like a half teaspoon with a bit of honey and mixing it through, and then that was lovely. Yogurt, mixing it through yogurt was okay.
Yeah.
Um, Mixing it into honey, so if you were having it maybe on toast or something, that would work.
Hmm.
That seemed to work. The one that I didn't enjoy, and you really didn't enjoy either, was in coffee. And I
Yeah.
thought, oh yeah, that'll be lovely. And I put it in my coffee grounds before I added the water. Andy
Hmm.
has an Americano black. I have oat
Yeah.
milk
No
in
milk, no
mine.
sugar.
So
Hmm.
we tried both, and it was horrible, eh?
Yeah, that got
I
binned
mean, it
pretty
was a
quick.
strong,
Yeah.
like, and it actually gives me the heave thinking about because of the flavor that it gave the coffee. Because I
Yeah,
enjoy
the
my little
combination wasn't
routine. It
wasn't
didn't
good and it
work
kind
for
of wrecked it
me.
a bit. Hmm.
Yeah, it didn't work for us, but someone else might want to do it like
Hmm.
that. Also in like main meals, like a stew or something like a stafado,
Hmm.
although you might get a side effect.
Oh yeah, Safari
Oh,
Stafaro doesn't agree with me, I don't think.
no, it doesn't. There was one time we were in
The strange
Cyprus,
phenomenon where I got a honk nose.
and yeah, and Andy, we had stafado just before we flew home with a last traditional meal, and we were flying home on an overnight flight, weren't we?
Mm.
5 hours, and it was
Kirsty was basically making out, I honked out the whole plane and had to like put my knuckles up
Andy.
my nostrils to
The
stop
person
any
next to me put the scarf over their face like they were disgusted. It was coming out your
coincidential
pores. The smell of it was like cinnamon. I don't know if it was the cinnamon, but the spices, and it was coming out of you, and I felt ill.
cinnamon city. Kirsty likes to dramatize things, by the way, folks. So it probably wasn't that bad, but the way she made it out, it was like evacuation of the plane because of the cinnamon spice smell. But anyway, swiftly moving on from that story.
Anyway, so I suppose if you enjoyed a stew, you could add it to that, but I feel
Hmm.
it's better probably in a breakfast, lunch, or snack scenario. The one that works best for us is putting it in a shot of apple juice.
Yeah,
So a
it was very
teaspoon,
pleasant.
it was pleasant, a teaspoon in a cup with maybe 30 mils of apple juice, so not a huge amount. Mix it up. What I
Hmm.
will say is you do have to mix it for a good 30 seconds because the cinnamon sits on the top.
Yeah.
And with that cinnamon, as soon as you have dry cinnamon in your mouth, it dries out your whole mouth and it ends up you choking and stuff on it. When I
Hence the
took it
cinnamon
over,
challenge that we talked
yeah,
about before.
to my mum
Yeah.
and dad, I did it. I said to my mum, "Oh, do you want to try this?" Because she wants to increase her cinnamon, and my dad as well.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and she tried it in the apple juice, and I took enough over for both parents. And
Mm-hmm.
my dad, being my dad, you know what he's like. He
Just
just
got
chucks
straight
anything
into it.
everywhere. And he was making a coffee, and I said, "Right, Dad, here you've got your." And he says, "I'll just put it in my coffee." And he chucked it in, and he didn't mix it enough. And I was trying to explain, but he was
Oh
showing
no.
off. And then and then it was sat, the dry cinnamon was sat on the top because he didn't mix it enough. And then he started to drink it and he coughed and spluttered everywhere. And it was like, he was like choking on it. And my mum was, it was like a total drama in the
Uh-huh.
kitchen. My mum's like, "What are you doing?" So, Dad,
And he's
in your
coughing and
apple
spluttering.
juice, mix it up properly. And it's actually really pleasant. It doesn't look pleasant. When you look at it, you're like, but when you're
Mm-hmm.
drinking it, and I suppose it would work hot as well if you wanted to heat up the apple juice as
Mm-hmm.
well in the winter. So that's the way that we have it. I do it twice a day,
Okay.
once before breakfast and once before lunch.
Hmm. So you mentioned heat. So does heat impact the quality of cinnamon and its sort of benefits then, or what's your thoughts
Yeah,
on that?
I looked into that as well. It does. Not full, it doesn't, like if you were to have it in apple crumble or in a hot drink, it doesn't fully take all the health benefits away.
Mm-hmm.
But you're better having it cold to get all of the health benefits. So if
Mm-hmm.
you really can't do that and you want to have it in a baked item, then that's better than not having it at
Okay.
all. But the cold drink or having it in your yogurt or a honey drizzle or whatever, that's going to give you
Mm-hmm.
the better health benefit as well. So colder is better.
Okay. Okay. And what sort of time of day should someone look to be having it? Is there any particular time that's better than others, or does it vary depending on the person? How does that sort of work?
The studies that I looked at, again, morning were the main bulk of studies were done in the morning because it's the
Mm-hmm.
fasted state after getting up.
Okay.
What they were sort of saying was morning studies, or the majority of studies were morning, so that was where the results were shown.
Mm-hmm.
But generally, the sort of consensus was morning, either just before breakfast or while you're
Okay.
eating breakfast or just before a meal. So I would say breakfast or lunch. It's to
Okay.
do with the obviously the blood sugar regulation is a big one. So I would
Mm-hmm.
say if you're going to have it in a shot of apple juice, you're better having it just before a meal because then you're
Mm-hmm.
not going to get these blood sugar spikes randomly.
Yeah.
Because apple juice is really sweet, especially for
Mm-hmm.
people that are maybe type 2 diabetic or they're looking at their blood sugars and like closely.
Mm-hmm.
Pairing it up with a meal is the best thing to do to get the
You're not wanting
benefit.
to have that obviously late at night or on a meal in the evening sort of thing, because obviously that's going to impact potentially
Yeah, I would
sleep and stuff.
say, yeah, I would say breakfast fasted just before breakfast, during breakfast, or
Mm-hmm.
just before lunch, during lunch, possibly just before dinner if you're not having it late,
Mm-hmm.
like a
Mm-hmm.
five
If it's an
o'clock. Because
earlier
I know
dinner, yeah.
Jenny talked a lot about in a previous podcast about late night eating and the impact. So that
Mm-hmm.
ties in with that. If you're having your dinner earlier, then that's fine. Have it then, or as
Mm-hmm.
part of your dinner, like stafado or whatever as well.
Yeah. I'll not be having Stefado though, so
No,
based on
definitely
our
not,
previous
because you
story.
stink. You've
Whoa.
avoided it from now on because
Yeah.
of that smell.
So harsh, so
I
harsh. Right.
know.
Anyway, moving swiftly on. Is there anyone who should be careful with the amount of cinnamon that they consume?
Well, from the research again, anyone that's pregnant or breastfeeding,
Mm-hmm.
just get a bit of advice if you're doing that and you want to continue doing that. Anyone with liver conditions, because there's a substance in it that can harm your liver if you have it too much quantities. Although having said that, Ceylon is better.
Mm-hmm.
It has far less than
Less
the
harsh.
Cassia type. It's less
Mm.
harsh. So but just bear that in mind if you've got a liver condition, speak to a doctor about it. And anybody that's sensitive gut, or
Hmm.
maybe allergic to cinnamon. I suppose it's just being mindful of if you start that, how you feel,
Just keep
and
an eye
you
on it, monitor
keep
it, I
an
suppose.
eye,
And
maybe start slow, not go full blown 3 grams, maybe start with 1 teaspoon and then build up to
hmm
two a day. So that's sort of the main ones that you need to look out for. But I suppose anybody should just be
hmm
mindful of how it feels as they go through the process of trying it.
Okay, so kind of consultation, particularly if there's any pre-existing conditions or
Yeah.
things like that, speak to your GP. So I suppose the last question I've really got for you is, so we're thinking about storage of cinnamon just to try and kind of maintain its usability, I suppose. So what's the best way to kind of store it?
Storage, cool, dry place. If
Hmm
when you are buying it, it's difficult because you don't want to be buying a huge quantity that then if it goes past its best before, the health benefit of that will, the potency, I suppose, will reduce. Not
hmm
fully, but as it gets older, it's not going to have as many health benefits as if it was fresher. So I would suggest maybe not going too big a bag,
Okay.
unless you've maybe got more than one person in your household doing more cinnamon in their diet.
Yeah.
So that's something to consider if you're buying it as well. Just maybe smaller options. You can get like 500 bags, 500
hmm
gram bags,
Yeah.
or even 150 grams or 200 grams.
hmm
That's worth considering as well. But yeah, just cool, dry place, not leaving it exposed in the heat
hmm
or anything.
Which is probably easy in Scotland. Well, depending on how the weather
Exactly.
is, it can get a
Yeah,
wee mild heat wave now
exactly.
and again.
I know.
Um, okay, that's perfect. So, I mean, I've found that super interesting actually. There's a lot of stuff in there that I wouldn't have even considered and related to cinnamon, particularly around the sort of health benefits and things as well, or even knowing that there was any more than one type of cinnamon that you kind of tend to see in your
Well, yeah, I
major
know.
supermarkets. So,
I didn't know.
and it's good that we've obviously kind of discussed as well some tips on kind of how to increase that within your diet and the kind of different options around that, and some real stories from the things that we've tried as well, which has been a bit of trial and error, but it's an experience anyways. So, was there anything else that you wanted to share just before we kind of sort of wrap things up with regards to cinnamon?
I don't think so. I think just try it. You
Mm-hmm.
know, it's one of those things I don't know if you would know. It maybe a type 2 diabetic who was on a journey to try and maybe do it more naturally with their blood
Mm-hmm.
sugar regulation might notice a difference if they're checking their blood sugars regular. It's the sort of thing I think you might not notice, but you're
Mm-hmm.
doing it, you're doing the world of good by including it in your diet. It's one of
Mm-hmm.
those, I'm eating this for health benefit rather than pure enjoyment.
Yeah.
And it's having that mind shift change from eating is about pleasure or energy
Mm-hmm.
to adding all these little things in it's the health benefit. That's what I'm
Yeah.
doing. It's for my health. It's nice. It's not
Yeah. It's not
unpleasant, and the apple
unpleasant.
juice is
Yeah.
nice. But
Mm-hmm.
for me, when I'm drinking it, I'm thinking this is about me doing it for my health. So you may not know, you may not see the results because there's so many different positives and benefits to it. It
Mm-hmm.
may be that and amongst all the other good things that you're doing, but it's worth it's worth it based on the studies that I've looked at. It's
Mm-hmm.
like a total and utter powerhouse spice
Yeah.
that I am going to include in my diet, and I have been, and you've been doing it every single day for weeks now.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So try it.
Give
Nothing
it a
to
go.
lose, eh?
Well,
Give it a
that's that.
go.
Perfect. Well, thanks again for your time, and I'm sure you'll be back on another pod in the not too distant future. Thanks again.
Yeah, all things nutrition coming
See you,
up.
Kirsty. Bye.
Bye.